But I miss you in the mornings when I see the sun.
Hello and welcome to my page. This is one of my training videos. I am a horse trainer currently in Southwest Colorado, and I am really specializing with young horses and getting them started, putting the basics on them. These are my two horses. They always run to me in the mornings. This horse right here is Hunter, and I was working on getting him used to the spray bottle. As you can see, we practice with water because it's free. And I'm just spraying it on his shoulder. That's how I would generally start doing this. He's doing pretty well, but he was pretty scared of it, and you can see all those flies around his face, and that's why we're practicing that. Okay, so I've tacked Hunter up, and now I'm really getting into, moving him out of my space, having him, walk quietly behind me is really important too. Hunter is such an awesome horse. He's just got a great mind. He's been really fun, and I'm actually recording this voiceover, voiceover after some time from this training session. So we have gone a really great ways since this. He's really come into his own, and we've got a nice little lope even now. But what you're looking at is probably training session 15, if I had to guess. So I started this horse and the next horse from the point where they couldn't even have a halter put on them. I mean, they were, especially Hazel, who you'll see next, she was completely feral when I first started working with her. So this is about 15 sessions into a training program of 30 sessions, and I guess I've probably been on Hunter I want to say 8 times, 9 times maybe. So quite a few times, and as you can see, we're just kind of taking it slow. I'm definitely not the type of trainer that jumps on a horse and, gallops around the round pen on day one. Maybe 10 years ago I would have done something like that. But now it's really about having relaxation and rhythm and straightness and steering and all the things without having your horse get so over the top and honestly overloaded with stimuli that they just freak out. And I've worked at horse rescues, I've worked at breeding farms, I've worked at basically every type of farm you can think of, and I can always tell the horses that were just saddled up and made to buck it out. Basically, they always have a little tinge of stress and tenseness that you just don't see in a horse that was started slowly. I'm not going to say started the right way. I'm doing air quotes when I say that, but definitely started in a calm, quiet way. And that's not to say that we're not going to have a come to Jesus moment, because if you've been training horses long enough, you know that 1, that could happen at any moment, and 2, it doesn't matter how much preparation you put in the end, the horse has its own autonomy in relation to their character and their personality and how they're going to react to situations. And I feel like when you're a horse person, you have to kind of trust in that. You have to honor that with every horse that you work with. And that's just kind of my training philosophy, how I try and work with different horses. And I always think it's better to have a positive situation than have your horse hate working, if that makes sense. And that's not to say, like, sometimes you do need to work the crap out of them, especially, like, I'm thinking in particular about a horse that is very buddy sour that I'm working with, and not this horse that you see on the screen now, but he is the horse I'm thinking of who's buddy sour. Honestly, like, the only way to get that horse to figure out not to scream at the top of his lungs to horses that aren't even there. If he thinks a horse is around, he will just start screaming. In that instance, yes, I run him around. I, make him move their feet. I make it uncomfortable for him. And then when he relaxes, that's when I relax. So that's just an example of how I would deal with buddy sour. But back to Hunter, since I went off on a tangent. You can see Hunter, he's, trotting pretty well at this stage, and I'm probably repeating stuff that I said in the last video because, honestly, training young horses is sometimes like watching paint dry. It just takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of patience, and it's really like the same thing over and over and over again, building a little bit each time. But when I'm working a horse that has this few of rides, I'm really focusing on the transitions. And I'm not asking them to, at this point during our little session, I'm not asking him to sustain that trot for a long time around the round pen. I'm asking for a nice, calm, and obedient, that's the key word, obedient transition from walk to trot or from walk to jog. He's still figuring out my body weight. Oh, and here's Hazel, his sister. And Hazel, you can see she's soft-tied where she can get away if she pulls back. This is kind of how I like to teach them how to just stand at the rail and kind of the beginnings of tying a horse. Sometimes I'll hold on to the tail of that rope so that she really can't get away. But if they're just standing there nice and quiet, that's great. Now, something about tying like this to the side of a round pen is if they do freak out and back up, that tail is going to come flying around and probably whack either you or the horse in the head. So just something to like keep a close eye on. Like if she was going to do something like that, I would be holding that tail. And also, you probably know this, but never tie to the side of a round pen like that. Do not tie your horses hard tying them like that because it is incredibly dangerous. So here I am getting on Hayes, and this is really because I just had a baby and I have extra weight and I'm not about to, mount from the ground anytime soon without looking like an idiot. And if you go back on some of my other videos, you will see that. So I've really just been getting all of my horses to come up to the side of a fence. And you can see here, like, I am putting a little pressure on her to back up. I'm not sure if that's something that I have worked on her with, the backup. So I just make her move her feet, and when she brings the saddle over next to me, I stop. And Hazel's so good about, it only takes her maybe 1 or 2 times to figure out what I want. I do like my horses to stand still when I get on. She's got maybe like half as many rides as Hunter, maybe a little bit more than half. So I'm not going to fight her on this. I'm just like I did just then. I walked her forward and then had her stop again so I could get my stirrups and kind of shake my feet into the stirrups and have her stand there. She is a little bit different than Hunter with the acceptance of the bit. He is the type of horse that just took to the bit, no problem, immediately. And as you can see, she does gape. She's really messing with the bit in her mouth, trying to get used to it. And I have checked in her mouth. She does have a little bit of a fat tongue, and it takes up a lot of space in there. It's funny that while I'm saying that, she's like sticking her tongue out and doing that. But I'm really like, at this age, she and Hunter are only 3 years old. So at this age, I'm not so worried about the acceptance of the bit and holding contact. I'm more worried like as they get older and they've had a bit in their mouth for more time. I'm also not going to put a noseband on her because I want her to find the spot in her mouth where that bit feels good and it can't feel comfortable. And the last thing I want to do is force her into that. Now, I might take a little different approach if I was working with, a dressage horse or a jumping horse, but she's going to be a trail horse. She just needs to figure out that bit is going to lie comfortably in the same spot every time. And we're not worried so much about, keeping a nice headset, having constant contact. She's going to just, this horse is probably going to end up just going on pack trips and being a good trail horse for her owner. I forget why I got off right here, but I feel like I'm about to get off of this horse. I might have a loose cinch, but that was a good square halt. I don't think she's paying attention to me, though. It looks like she's looking everywhere outside of the arena. So I'm just turning her, constantly steering her in a different direction. Oh, I know what it is. It's my stirrups are obscenely long, and I didn't want to deal with that right here because I'm like trying to get her to walk nicely on the outside and halt when I say. But yeah, my stirrups are so long right here. Yeah, she's doing great. She's just like following my cues really well. What's funny is because even though Hunter was quieter in the sense that he's like a little bit easier to work with, he was the one that threw a bunch of bucks when I first put on the saddle. And she did not at all. So I thought that was really interesting because she is the more skittish out of the two. But she's just been a complete joy to get started in riding. In the next video that I post, I'm sure you'll see that she has really come a long way. And even here around the round pen right here, she's accepting the contact a little bit better. I think it's when she does feel the pressure of the bit that she resists, and that's totally to be expected with a young horse. I don't think I've ever gotten on a horse, put a bit in a horse's mouth for the first time and had any of them really just like accept the contact. It's something that's learned, and I think it's really important that like as horse trainers we remember like the horse's anatomy, how their back, how their vertebrae are formed, that we're not meant to ride these horses. Okay, so here's where I get off and I'm like, F this, I've got to adjust my stirrups and get them right for this next little bit. But she's a good looking horse. I think she's probably like 14 hands. She and Hunter are from the same breeder in Colorado. And they're both 3 this year, so we're in the year 2023. So they're both 3, which is funny because they're the same age as my 2 fillies that you saw at the beginning of this video. And they've just been like really nice to start. I think it was a little difficult for Hazel and I at the beginning to form a bond because she was so skittish. So that's taken a long time, but her owners have done an amazing job of working with her and Hunter and just getting them to the point where they like people. which it just takes time. Like, this whole young horse training thing is really about the time you put in and the quality of that time. And, there's this saying that's like, if you ride your horse every day, of course they're going to be great, and I think that that's so true. Like, if you work your horse every single day, and it doesn't have to be, 45 minutes in the arena, but if you work with them, they're going to be a great horse. So here I'm trying to get her to walk up to the fence again so that I can get on. And she did that much better this time. She only took like half a step forward. So I was pretty happy with that. I mean, yeah, there's a little resistance, but I am giving her the pressure through the bit to ask her to stand still right there. And she, it's not like she grabbed that bit and took off and bolted or anything. So I'm pretty happy with that. Well, I must have tightened the cinch because my stirrups don't look any shorter. If anything, they look longer. Maybe they are a little shorter. There, she's walking really nicely. And I do feel like sometimes with these sessions, like if I get off and I get back on, like it just helps the horse. Like I get off and it gives their break. It gives them a little bit of a mental break. And then I have to get back on again. And especially when she's giving me a little hard time mounting, it's nice to like get off and get on and get off and get on. And on like my second or third ride, that's really what it's all about. Like I'm just getting on, getting off constantly during the session. Here I'm asking her to move to the outside a little bit, and she really reacted nicely to my leg. So from the very beginning, I'm going to be working on the spiral in, spiral out exercise, and I will try to do another video about that. It's just like a classic lower level dressage exercise that really gets the horse listening to your inside and outside leg and your outside rein. So you can see she's still gaping, but her trot transitions are pretty obedient, and she's got a nice little rhythm. She's just a really cute horse. Like, she wants to do so well. She's going to make a really nice horse one day. So with the head shaking and stuff, like I'm really just going to ignore that, and I'm going to ride correctly and balanced, and if anything, I'm just going to put a little bit of leg on. Like I think at some point, it might not be in this session, but I think the next one I definitely do get a whip out with her. I don't like just like going to the whip because we are, we really aren't that many rides in. So it's like she needs to just like feel balanced with my body weight on her, and I'm doing a lot. Like you can see, I'm kicking, I'm using my rein contact. I'm doing a lot, and it's a lot for her to process. So that's why I'm like not jumping to get a whip right now. But I also do think it's good like to do a few pony club kicks so that you know that they're gonna like accept somebody else doing that. You know what I mean? Like, so kicking her hard like that is not a big deal to me at the beginning of this either. Like, she will get in tune to my leg aids, and eventually I'll just have to think, the upward or the downward transition, and she will do it from what my body is telling her. Lots of pats for the babies. Yeah, and I mean, I can tell she's pretty sticky here. I think that's why I'm like asking her to make a smaller circle, move her legs around, keep moving. And here I'm really getting after her because the last thing I want is a horse that's sticky. like, well, I shouldn't say that's the last thing I want. The last thing I want is something that bolts and bucks and rears and roots and does all that crap. But, when I'm starting a horse and I'm doing it calmly and, quote unquote, the right way, I really do, I don't want a horse that's sticky, because that's not fun to ride for anybody. And especially when you're on the trail, it's really important that they move, fluidly. So here I'm just working her a little bit on some side pulls, and asking her to soften through her neck. She did it right there really well. And doing more of that stuff where she gets used to the pressure that I put on the bit and what my hands feel like, because I have soft hands. I'm not going to yank this horse in the mouth. It might look like at some points that I'm yanking her in the mouth, but I'm not. I probably don't have more than a 1/4 pound or a 1/2 pound of pressure on those reins at any given time, unless shit really hits the fan. But we're lucky that did not happen. So that was Hazel, and she's just really fun. She's a really fun horse to work with. I think at the beginning it was a little daunting because she and Hunter are the first horses that I've really put a full start on since after I had my baby. So it was a little bit oh no, I have one that's a little bit high strung and I didn't know what to expect with her. But, I cannot tell you how happy I am. She has just turned into such a great horse. And here I am, and we're just walking because she's so cute. She's such a cute little... And she's totally, got the little girl attitude. I just think she's really pretty, too. And here's Turnip. So I went to the Connemara farm after I rode the 2 quarter horses, and he is in all his Les Mieux stuff. And here he gets a little red light therapy after his rides just to help with anything like a preventative. And here's beautiful Lilith. This is Susan's horse. And here's our little cowboy Corgi at another farm, Casa Durango. This is the cutest dog in the whole wide world. And these are some of the products that we use on the horses at Casa Durango. They are from the Herbal Horse, and I think there's another one up there, Mary's Botanicals. And I just had to take a video of Holly on the Icelandic Sindri on the right, and on the left is my friend Jess, and she's riding a Welsh Cob, and I just thought they were so cute.